Hi creatives, it's Claire from Right Counts, and I just wanted to pop in pretty quickly to talk to you a little bit about Wave, because I've heard from a lot of people that the latest changes, the PayPal changes, the Stripe changes, and kind of the support changes, have them seriously considering moving softwares. So for some people, it's the PayPal thing. The PayPal's really active and they're just not willing to work around it by doing it manually. For the others, it is the Stripe payments. They use that on their invoices, and to have to work around that, it's just going to be too hard, and it's going to make getting paid harder. And who wants to make that harder? So I thought it would be really useful to share with you the factors I go through, the considerations I go through, the things I think about when I talk to people about changing softwares and what might be good for them, and when I choose my own software too. Now, you may notice I'm not in my office today. We are in holiday mode, so I will try, as I said, to keep this kind of on track and focused. So the first thing, and I think this is really important, is price. You have to consider the price when you're looking at bookkeeping software. And I find it really offensive when people say, oh, you should just get a paid one, whichever that their preferred paid one is. And I'm like, well, some people just don't have $25, $30, $40, $50 a month to give to a software company to do something that they could do for free. Now, like, the free options never compare directly with the paid options, but if the paid options have way more than you need and the free option does what you need, then just to say, like, and it's really flippant the way they do it, oh, you should just get it because you're going to need it eventually. Well, I might need something in 2 years, but I don't necessarily need to pay for it now. So do I need to pay $25 a month for the next 2 years before I actually need that software? Now, it can really depend on if you are kind of software savvy. So if you do pick up softwares quite quickly, then chopping and changing, as you might suggest it is, if you're being a bit flippant, may not be a problem for you. Now, if you're not software savvy, then going straight to that paid option, the one that's going to suit you in 2 years, may work for you, of course. But it's really that balance of paying for anything, you know. What are the features I'm getting? What are the benefits of those features for the price I am paying? And does that seem like good value? Am I going to get value out of that? There's no point just paying for something for the sake of paying for something that does not help your profit, because it is going to factor into your expenses. So kind of link to that really directly. A second thing is features. What do you need? First and foremost, really give that priority. What do I need? And then what do I want? What would be a good to have? You know, that nice to have. Yes, I'd love to have everything automated. I'd love to have somebody doing it for me. I'd love to have so many millions rolling in that I need the most expensive version of the software. But what do I actually need? I need something that I can use. I need something that is easy for my clients to use, like it's easy for them to receive invoices, it's easy for them to pay invoices. And there's a lot of things I don't need. I don't need multi-currency. I'm only working with Australians. I don't need fringe benefits tax, for example, because that's not relevant to me as a sole trader. So there's lots of things that may be good features for some businesses, but are they good features for your business? So what do you want? Yes, you need to factor that in, but not necessarily before what do you need. And there's obviously a kind of standard baseline that most programs do: send invoices, track expenses, like deal with your owner's equity. Now, not all of them do that, which was a real concern for me when I checked one. But kind of there's a bit of a standard across them, and then you start to get into those kind of add-on features. Do I need 250 different reports? Probably not. I probably just need like 5. Because most of them are just like nice, like, ooh, that's a nice report. What would I do with it? Maybe you need to think about how many PayPal accounts, how many bank accounts, different bank institutions, do they link to your particular bank? Do you need to track inventory? Do you need to do multi-currency? That sort of thing. So like, I know there are a bazillion features that you could have, but what do you need? What will you actually use? So on to the third factor, which is compatibility. And this is really especially important if you are kind of running a company as opposed to being a sole trader. Getting involved with any kind of tax legislation, whether that's GST, company income taxes, fringe benefits tax, those kind of ones, payroll as well. Payroll's a particular one, so if you are getting into those kind of more highly legislated areas, holiday mode, it's really important to think about that compatibility. Now, this is not to say that an Australian software is better, and I really don't believe that where something is owned should drive your decision. It may be if you're comparing two and one is Australian based and one isn't Australian owned, then maybe that could be a tipping factor for you, but I don't think it should be driving that primary decision, because something can be American owned but they have a real focus on the Australian market, and I've seen this, like we saw this with the JobKeeper stuff. So the big softwares, knowing that they have a massive Australian market, went and did a load of development on making their softwares work with JobKeeper. Absolutely essential, and they really kind of jumped on it and did it as quick as possible. The same with the changes to the tax rates, like they were implementing those really quickly for payroll. So like having that kind of that JobKeeper and the changes recently really have highlighted to me there's some are responsive to the Australian market, and then there are others that are kind of, not that bothered. I've definitely put Wave in that category. So that compatibility with Australian legislation is really important. And then the fourth factor is growth, and this is the most subjective. Yeah, probably. Because you've got to really find that balance between what do you need now, what do you need next, and what might you need eventually, and who has a crystal ball even of what might you need eventually. And like, obviously, I'm going to say you need to prioritize now and next, and by next, I really mean that 6 to 12 months, maybe 18 months, thinking about like that next financial year. Because you should have a pretty good estimate of what that is. How much is my business going to change in the next 18 months? How much my requirements going to change in the next 18 months? Kind of, if you're in my position, so I'm a sole trader, I'm not yet registered for GST, like they're the things I'm looking at. So in the next 18 months, I would like to be registered for GST. Obviously, that's a significant milestone for any business, and I am tracking towards it. Then am I looking then at, do I want to be transitioning to a company rather than being a sole trader? They're kind of my next 6 to 18 months. That's what I'm looking at. So I want to be aware of, I want to pick a software that will work for those. Now with the company changeover thing, that gets a little bit tricky in, I'm actually a different entity, so I'll probably have to start a different account. But if I'm using the same software, then it's actually really easy because I've learned that software. I'm already thinking about how I set things up as a company, having to do payroll, having to pay compulsory super, those sorts of things. And whether that does happen for me in the next 18 months, we can only see. But kind of beyond that 18 months, when you start getting to that 2 years, it's really difficult to predict what you're going to need. You may choose a particular software, and then you may work with a tax accountant or a bookkeeper that doesn't use that software. They use Xero when you're using QuickBooks or whatever the way around it is. So you can't kind of hold it really tightly. You do have to be flexible with it. So real balance. It's just kind of having that as a thought in your mind. What may I need, as opposed to really having that as a priority thing. So remember, pretty much anytime I'm talking about software, anytime I'm talking about bookkeeping, I always say the best system is the one you use. And maybe that's Wave, maybe that's the spreadsheet, maybe that's whatever, one of the big ones. Really, the using it is the important part, and don't let anybody convince you otherwise, except maybe a professional. So I hope this has been useful, kind of thinking about these things. If you are thinking about leaving Wave, what are you willing to pay? What are the features you need? What are the features you want? Secondary. Is it compatible to where you are? Is it compatible with Australian legislation? Are they responsive to the Australian market? And then kind of that growth. What do I need now is the features. What do I need next? That's kind of the growth. And what may I need eventually as that kind of last kind of thing you're really going to put in there. Now, I am going to run through kind of a comparison of my favourite bookkeeping softwares on the training that I've got coming up on the 6th of January, which is the Wednesday. A couple of free ones I've got a comparison of, and a couple of paid ones. So I do have some favourites, but it's not always just a straight prediction. There are different factors that come into each, different pricing features that happen in the paid ones, different considerations as well with the free ones. So if you want to hear what my comparisons are, both free and paid, as I said, then sign up to join the training. I will leave the link for that in a comment on the video. And as ever, if you have any questions around kind of the things that go into choosing a software that will work for your business, remember, anybody else's recommendation, unless they're a professional, is probably just their subjective opinion on what works for them, what they need in their business, what compatibility they need, what growth they need. And often there's this, this one's easier, but what's easy for one person isn't always easy for another person. So it is an individual thing, and I always recommend you individually review your circumstances. Yeah, have questions, pop them in the comments. I will pop back and answer them. And until tomorrow, I've got a little message coming up tomorrow. I hope you have a great break. If you are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas. And I will be back between now and the new year, so I will not wish you the second greeting. I'll see you later.